All right, this is Euphony Mevia Shalom. Back to you with another video once again. We are at Genesis chapter 7. And the eternal Yahuwah said unto Noah, Come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. So as you can see, verse 1, the eternal Yahuwah instructs Noah to enter into the ark because he is deemed righteous in his generation. This shows Noah required encouragement to believe the flood would actually occur. Okay? Verse 2, Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by sevens, the male and his female, and of beasts that are not clean by two, the male and his female. Okay? So as you can see in verse 2, instructions to take 7 pairs of clean animals for sacrifice. Okay? And we can see this in Genesis chapter 8, verse 20, when Noah was making a covenant with the Most High. Okay? So he needed animals for that. And 1 pair of unclean animals. Okay? This distinction highlights that sacrificial laws existed before Sinai. And even in 7, Salakia, ensures survival for future usage. Okay? So, let's go to verse 3. Of fowls also of the air by sevens, the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth. All right? So verse 3 is the command to take 7 pairs of birds, also ensures they survive the destruction. Okay? So, let's go to verse 4. This is where it gets interesting. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and every living substance that I have made will I destroy from off the face of the earth. Okay? So verse 4, right, he gave us 7 days are given, right, to allow for repentance and as a final mourning period for Methuselah. Because as you can see, the 7-day mourning, ritual, it does exist, right? And we can see this in the book of Genesis as well. If you go to Genesis chapter 50, we could be able to see that the Israelites actually did a 7-day mourning for Jacob, right? So it says in verse 8, And all the house of Joseph and his brethren and his father's house, only their little ones and their flocks and their herds, they left in the land of Goshen. And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great company. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond Jordan, and there they mourned with a great and very sore lamentation, and he made a mourning for his father 7 days. Okay? So we could be able to see in this context that Joseph and his family and the Egyptian officials, right, went with him as a great company, right, to the threshing floor of Atad that is beyond the Jordan to mourn for his father's death, okay, for 7 days. So the 7-day mourning ritual had existed already, right, before Exodus. So we could see that in Genesis chapter 7, verse 4, the 7-day mourning ritual makes sense. Now, for Methuselah, that also makes sense. Because if you actually take a look at Genesis chapter 5, verse 26, it says, And Methuselah lived after he begot Lamech 782 years, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. And Lamech lived 182 years, and begot a son, and he called his name Noah. Okay? So, here's how you do the math on this, right? If Methuselah lived 782 years after he begot Lamech, and Lamech begot Noah as a 182-year-old. Then subtract 182 from 782, you'll get 600. Noah was 600 years old when the flood occurred, which means Methuselah died the same year the flood occurred. Okay? And we could be able to check this out in Genesis chapter 7, verse 5. And Noah did according unto all that the Lord commanded him, and Noah was 600 years old when the flood of waters was upon the earth. So we can see Noah was 600 years old when the flood occurred. And also in verse 5, Noah acts with full obedience to the divine command, highlighting his faith. Okay? So let's go to verse 7. And Noah went in, and his sons, and his wife, and his sons' wives with him into the ark because of the waters of the flood. All right? So Noah and his family entered the ark before the waters rise, separating themselves from the corrupt generation. All right? So let's go to verse 8. Of clean beasts, and of beasts that are not clean, and of fowls, and of everything that creepeth upon the earth, there went in 2 and 2 unto Noah into the ark, the male and the female, as God, as Elohim, had commanded Noah. All right? It says animals entered in pairs, male and female, as commanded, showing the orderliness of creation, even during destruction. Okay? So the Most High, when he commands something in order. All right? So this is Noah acting in obedience once again. Verse 10. And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. All right? So the 7-day waiting period expires and flood waters begin. Okay? Now verse 11. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. Okay? So the flood begins on the 17th of the 2nd month. And it has been debated all across the world on the civil 2nd month, right? Which is what they like to call the Marcheshvan, right? Which is from October to November, right? Somewhere around that season. Or the actual 2nd month based off of March, in between April being the 1st month, right? So that means that the month of Iyar, right? Or Iyar. It's spelled I-Y-A-R. Iyar, right? Which is basically the month between April and May. All right? So they're either talking about these two different seasons. Either one of these seasons are correct. Okay? When it says in the 2nd month. So, just to let you know, whichever one you choose, right? Is just know that, one of those months are based off of the 2nd month that they're trying to portray in verse 11. Now, in verse 12, and the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. Okay? So, before I actually explain verse 12, let's go back to verse 11, because there's an understanding that we need to get, right? So, the fountains of the great deep refers to the abyss breaking, okay? So, the abyss is actually putting in work. The Most High is using the abyss for the flood. And then it talks about the windows of heaven referring to the rain coming down from the firmament, okay? So, heaven means sky, and then you also got the rain coming down from the sky, okay? So, just wanted it to clarify that for the people in the audience. It says, verse 12, right? When they talk about the rain continues for 40 days and nights, a standard period for a complete cycle of judgment and cleansing. The 40 days of rain signifies complete purification. Okay? So the Most High God is cleansing the earth. All right? While all of the creatures and Noah and his family is inside the ark. Verse 13. In the selfsame day entered Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them into the ark. Noah and his family entered the ark as a total of 8 people. All right? Verse 14. They and every beast after his kind, and all the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth after his kind, and every fowl after his kind, right? Every bird of every sort. And they went in unto Noah into the ark, 2 and 2 of all flesh, wherein is the breath of life. Okay? So every animal after its kind entered into the ark with Noah and his family. All right? So, in verse 16, and they that went in male and female of all flesh, as Elohim had commanded him, and the Most High shut him in. Okay? The eternal Yahuwah. And the flood was 40 days upon the earth, and the waters increased and bare up the ark, and it was lifted up above the earth. And the waters prevailed and were increased greatly upon the earth, and the ark went upon the face of the waters. And the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and all the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered. 15 cubits upward with the waters prevail, and the mountains were covered. Okay? So think of your highest mountain in the world. That was actually covered with water too. So this flood was very, very huge. Okay? And all flesh died that moved upon the earth, both of fowl and of cattle and of beast and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, and every man, all in whose nostrils was the breath of life, of all that was in the dry land died, and every living substance was destroyed, which was upon the face of the ground, both man and cattle, and the creeping things, and the fowl of the heaven, and they were destroyed from the earth. And Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark. And the waters prevailed upon the earth in 150 days. Salakia, in 150 days. Okay? So, in 150 days, this is when the waters killed everybody. Okay? This is when the flood was still going on. It went on for 150 days. So, I love you guys. Thank you guys so much for actually being here. And I'll see you in the next video for chapter 8. Shalom Barakas.